Call this meeting to order. Rhonda, can we have the roll call?
Roll call, please. Yes.
Okay, Ms. Temple,
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Person West.
Present.
Dr. Redda.
Here.
Ms. McLean.
Here.
Ms. Walker.
Here.
Mr. Still.
Miss Woods, take off your hat, please.
Thank you. We're going to do executive closed session.
Yes, ma'am.
Executive closed session per North Little Rock Policy 1.14A stating that private or closed sessions by the board may occur as part of a regular or special board meeting. Executive sessions may be held only for the purpose of considering employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of an employee, or to discuss matters of pupil punishment if requested by a parent or legal guardian. No resolution, agreement, or motion considered in the executive session shall be legally binding unless the board reconvenes in public session and presents the item for a vote of membership. Further, Arkansas Code Title 25, Chapter 19, Section 106.2 states the specific purpose of the executive session shall be announced in public before going into executive session. So please join me in executive closed session for discussion of the following matters: employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resigning of an employee.
space. Oh.
So we are ready to move on to action items.
Give us 30 seconds for our computers to come up, please, ma'am.
Okay.
Let me go to,
There's two of us waiting on it, so
My thing closed out.
we keep reading. Is yours up? Rochelle's good.
Madam Chair,
you ready to do action item 4 point, is everybody up, ready to go?
I am
Madam,
but go ahead.
Yep, Madam President, our first action item is 4.1. The superintendent recommends the employment of personnel as discussed in executive closed session.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the employment of personnel 4.1 as discussed in closed session.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam President, members of our Board of Education. The next action item is 4.2. This is proposed technology resource policy. If you remember at our last meeting, Mr. Nannon did a great job doing an overview, updating our policy as it relates to changes, legislative changes to cybersecurity. So the superintendent recommends the proposed technology resource policy revisions and additions.
We have a motion.
Madam President, I move that we adopt the proposed technology resource policy
Second.
that has the recommendations and changes from the state law.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam President, members of our Board of Education. The next action item is 4.3, North Little Rock School District, North Little Rock High School and the Center of Excellence 2024-2005 course requirements. If you recall, this was presented both by Dr. St. Louis and in addition to support Ms. Wisnat on changes to the course guide graduation requirements. So the superintendent recommends the 2024-2005 course requirement updates and changes as presented at the last board meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the North Little Rock High School and Center of Excellence 2024-2025 course request.
Second.
Okay, moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam President, members of our Board of Education. The last item is 4.4. This is bus salvage. And I'll probably let Mr. Logan, if you want, I mean, the board summary is there as we're changing out and salvaging. If you remember, all the way back to Dr. Tyler and his vision is we've been upgrading our buses, and as we add new buses into our fleet, we salvage those other buses, and so that is the recommendation.
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the recommendation from Mrs. Coleman on the engine model of the year of 2007 and the engine model of the year of 2009.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Okay. So we are to public comments. And Ron Watson, you have something to say to us?
Yes. First of all, thank you for the opportunity just to be able to address you. My name is Ron Watson. I'm from this area, born and raised. My aunt was a major advocate in this city. Her name was Lorraine Joshua. Joshua Intervenors. But I'm here today to speak about, I want to inspire young people to finish high school. I clearly know that if you don't finish high school, the path road is completely different.
Yes, sir.
It's not even a question that it's detrimental to our community. Spoke to Ms. Dorothy Williams. She gave me the platform to be able to come up and speak to you all. I look forward to speaking to the superintendent. I take it very serious. I think every young person is at risk, no matter if they're straight A to a F student. And So to me, I don't think that you can start progressing our youth without getting their commitment first.
Amen.
I want to know that you're willing to invest in yourself. And for those who are not willing to invest in themselves, that's when we put the resources in the community around them to reach them. But we have to keep up with every young person right now. It's very dangerous. As soon as you're not aligned with education, it's real easy to end up in the penitentiary.
Mm.
And I see so many of our young people there because I speak there as well. I'm a servant. I'm here to bring change in this community, and I think we can do it through motivation, encouragement, and inspiration. The name of my brand is called Had To. So when I ask the young person, what does it mean? They say, had to. I say, what does it mean? They say, had to do my homework. Had to take the trash out. Had to help mama. Had to make my bed. Had to pull my pants up. Had to do my homework. We can transfer our young people's energy into something that's about them. And that's what I'm all about, motivating our young people to take on a brand, not these fake brands that they have out here that's got our kids on a leash running the wrong direction. That's what I'm after, and I want to start here at home. I've been doing this for the last 20 years. I'm not a startup. I've helped a whole lot of kids. So when you look me up, you will see this is a ministry. It's an initiative. It's not a program. It's going to change even the way you look at it. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you, Mr.
you.
Watson.
Thank you.
Look forward to meeting you. Okay.
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn and go into workshop.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, let's go to workshop.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President, members of our Board of Education. Our first information item 1.1 is our calendar options. It's that time of year. I'll welcome my colleague, Mr. Jacob Smith, Executive Director of Human Resources. Thank you, Mr. Watson. It's that time of year again, as we always think about going into next year. What are our options? And I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith as he's worked with both LPPC and CPPC to bring those options to us this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Paluski, Madam President, members of the board. Thank you for having me this evening. So what we have bringing before you is two traditional calendar options this year. This option one is very similar to the calendar option we were under this year. As you can see, the AEA days are still built in. The PD, Parent-Teacher Conference days, are still structured the same way on October 17th and February 13th, with the no school days following those days as well, just as it was structured this year already. And so we don't have much say in Christmas this year in regards to how it falls, so we have to span those particular 2 weeks where Christmas and New Year's Day occur. And that's what you see, and this calendar has us getting out June 4th. If I can get Mr. Nanan to scroll down to option number 2.
Mr. Nanan,
The remote's right beside you, Jacob.
oh,
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
he might not be able, it's not,
We've got Hunter running tonight.
Oh.
Sorry, Hunter.
You might have to do it for me, Hunter.
are they both on there? I don't think they're,
Seems to be an upload issue.
Which one?
The,
Is it? We're having some technical difficulties
Yeah.
in here tonight.
because there
That's
should be
option
2 calendars, correct?
Correct. There was a tab at the bottom, a tab 1 and 2 on the Excel spreadsheet. Hunter, I'll send it to you right now. If you guys, if the board does not mind me pivoting quickly, I apologize.
I mean, if we can't get it up, what we could do is just table this, move to the next item, we'll get everything uploaded, and then come back if we can't get it loaded.
But that's the second option. One of
This
them,
just
it
is left,
ends
ain't
in May. The first one you showed ends in June. The first one that was up there, it ends in June. This one ends in May.
Yeah, that
Right.
is the second option, correct.
That's the draft, it
This
says
is the
draft on
second
ours.
So both of them are there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I see
This
it
is the
2024,
second option.
2025,
Okay,
so
perfect.
both of them are there.
I apologize. So the first one was very similar to what we were on this year with the early release, and the parent-teacher conference day is structured that way. No, the other one, please.
Right. It's not up there.
It's right there. That is
The second one.
yes, the second one.
Okay.
So if you'll notice on this one, what we do, the nuance between the two is on this second option. If you will look particularly in October and February, you will see the parent-teacher conference days are not coupled with a PD day. That PD day has been moved to the beginning of the year whenever teachers first come back. And there is also there is not a no school day the day after parent-teacher conferences. And
So, Mr. Smith, just not to interrupt, but you're talking about in this option, that would be October 18th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
And February 14th. Those are the two parent-teacher conference days, and those are a fully devoted day to parent conferences. The other nuance you'll see is in November, both AEA days are not there. The purpose of this calendar and what the ask of the CPPC and LPPC is to get us out in May, not extend into June. And so by shaving one day off so we don't give both days off for AEA days and give a little mini fall break there on the 8th, it allows us 3 days to get off in May, and so that was the purpose of this calendar. Besides that, there's not much difference. This has been worked through our joint calendar committee on both the CPPC and the LPPC. The way these have been approved is they have been approved to send to the staff for vote, and whichever calendar wins in the vote, that will be the calendar that we bring before the board for final approval at the second meeting in January. Are there any questions in regards to these two?
Mr. Smith, did you all get a clarity? You know, this year the teachers asked you all had to go back and adjust on the calendar. They wanted to get out that Friday rather than just have 2 days before Christmas, remember? And they came back to your group. Now, did you implement, did they get the days this time?
Well,
The Friday, what was this, so I can have a clarity when I'm talking, I want you to tell me how you gave them the extension through Mr. Brown, you know, on the attendance. Would you explain that, please?
I don't.
You had to go back and give them extra days. They wanted to get out on a Friday. They were only gonna get out on the 22nd, and you all decided to let them out on,
The 22nd of
20.
December? Are you referring to the 22nd of December?
right,
Okay, so the last day, are you talking about shifting it for that whole first week of January off? Or,
whatever their decision was prior to that, my understanding, you all agree, I guess if Ms. Colquitt, I guess the question I'm asking Dr. Paluski, I thought initially they were maybe just getting out on the 22nd, and they said that's not enough time.
Yes, ma'am.
And the district
I'm clear
allowed
now.
them to get,
Yes, ma'am. I apologize. I do understand what you're asking. The concern last year is they wanted that Friday before Christmas off.
yes,
That is not applicable in this calendar because Christmas was on a Monday this year. That's why we were so squished up tight whenever we went through that Friday that we just had that Saturday and Sunday, and then Christmas was on a Monday. Well, this year, because it is an after leap year, and because our days naturally move back, Christmas is on a Wednesday, so that's how you get the 2-day skip. I haven't seen a calendar in the state that is doing Christmas break a different way. I haven't seen it because it just naturally falls on that Wednesday, so you get 4 days to travel, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Christmas Day is on that Wednesday. Does that help answer your question,
yeah,
Ms. Williams?
I just don't want us having to deal with that.
Yes, ma'am.
Come Christmas time, now you said you talked to both groups,
Yes, ma'am.
licensed and none. So I just wanted to say if we can go ahead and look at the thing right, because I know this is a draft and it's not to be voted on, but make sure they look at it good so that if any questions, both of the groups can come in and when they discuss this calendar, if they see there's a need to change, let's try to have a smooth year for coming 24, 25 for Christmas, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I have
Ms.
a
Williams?
question. I have a question.
Yeah.
It seems like at the beginning of the year, there's always confusion about when is the building going to be open for teachers to get into the building, especially those elementary teachers, because they want in the building.
Sure.
Is that something that could be put on the calendar? Is that just something that happens right there at the end, and depending on whether the school has been cleaned and the floors are polished? And
Yeah, I think that's more of that we can handle that administratively through our administrators to communicate with our teachers about when the building's open. I know I've heard that when, elementary teachers want to get in,
Yes, they do.
as early as they can. And I believe we made provisions this year to allow them in, once the cleaning was done. But I do believe they were in 3, 4, up to 5 days prior to reporting.
And the feedback you received, particularly from the elementary principals, was that whenever they come back on contract, us do our Leadership Institute as soon as we can, so they would have as much time in the building as possible. And that's been done now every year since Dr. Paluski received that feedback. And I believe the goal of the elementary principals and the secondary is to have the building open for teachers and be getting ready to open school for as many consecutive days as possible.
right.
Great point.
What is the earliest we can start school in August? Is 19th the earliest?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
by state law, correct.
Yes, ma'am. Or yes, sir.
So during discussion, it was reminded that we don't have AMI days and we don't have snow days built in. So if we went with option 1 and stayed in school to June 4th, they know that means it could be June 15th before we get out if
Correct.
it snows.
We build in 5 days, just like in this calendar. We have 5 days that are built in at the end of the year. So if we got to use a snow day next week, we're adding days on until we get to 5, and then we'll go from there. Same thing, Mr. Smith, that are built in these calendars are 5 days at the end of the year.
Correct.
Will there be a vote as far as our teachers go? They get a choice of option A or option B before
Yes.
it comes back to us?
Yes, ma'am. That went out today, and it's to all staff. And so whatever calendar wins, the PPCs have already voted that is their pick. So whichever staff calendar wins, that will be what's brought back to you at the second meeting in January for approval.
Perfect. So to follow up with that, so we are not asking the parents this time about the calendar. We're keeping it to the teachers, the professionals, the ones who are going to be here teaching the children.
Yes, ma'am. So if you'll remember, prior to the discussion last year, whenever we pulled the community, pulled the parents, pulled the stakeholders, pulled everybody, basically, it's because we were exploring those 4 different
Options.
calendar
Right.
options because that was the first year. We stuck with the traditional calendar option again this year, and so we felt like that was the community pick last year. If we're still sticking with that, then we're going to go ahead and let our staff pick as they did last year once we arrived at that, because it's still a traditional calendar.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the cutoff date
Cutoff date for?
to make your selection?
For the
January
staff?
18th.
January.
Yes, I believe January 18th. The memo went out today. I can put that in my weekly board report.
Okay.
I noticed that we have early release days in both of those calendars, so has that been decided? If we will have early release next year, or?
Yes, ma'am. Because we did so much work, again, with the polling and the conversation and stuff, Dr. Paluski did go back to the teacher advisory, parent advisory. I've had conversations with both PPCs. We feel in order to give early release a chance, and the PPCs have been supportive in regards to that, we need to see a second year. We've also made some adjustments because we've seen it in action week by week. And so we've done a lot of work with that, and we've got high hopes in regards to that continuing on through next year, and we're hoping to have some good data for the board.
Okay, great.
So, yep, and just to that point, we've made some significant changes based upon listening to teachers, teacher advisory, as Mr. Smith is talking about, principals. So those changes for second semester will go in the last week because in January we've had some short weeks. Next week's a holiday, so we haven't had early release, so we will the following week. So we're all anxious to see about those changes, and probably in February I'll be doing a presentation to give you an update on early release, the changes that we've made, and I'm so appreciative of our administrators and our teachers for the due diligence, the work that they've put in it to their voices in the change for second semester.
Okay.
Anybody else? I have one quick question, and that is when we sent that out to the parents, there was a high percentage that wanted year-round, and we had talked about kicking that out so that there'd be time. Everybody said, we'd like that, but we would want it announced way ahead of time. Has that ever been discussed?
Yes, ma'am. So we're in active discussion still in regards to the calendar because it's one of the biggest decisions we make. If the board will remember, what transpired last year was unexpected and it was LEARNs. And so the PPCs pivoted at the point in which we thought we were going to start working towards this year's calendar and making all of the necessary changes. If it was year long, looking at contract, looking at this, looking at that. And so having all those different conversations, but we didn't get to it because we had to make a new salary schedule, go through the salary fees, figure out all the different pieces that were put in place by the legislative session so that we could open school.
Okay.
And so we're working on that this year is the goal.
Okay. Mr. Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
now, this calendar, your committee's just decided on this? You did not go out as a survey again? I heard what you say, why they had to do it last year. But you know, good committee, did this calendar go out to the teachers and everything?
It is out with the teachers right now, the two options.
Okay, and it also went with the classified, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, because otherwise, we have to keep the door open, and we don't want to hear a recall on this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We've been tried to be very consistent in regards to our calendar process because it's such a big decision, and so we've tried to be pretty.
Okay, make sure you present that to the board. We want to see the percentages of who voted for what.
Of course. Yes,
Sure.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Smith, real quick, what has been your ongoing feedback that you have received as far as early release days? Do teachers find that time beneficial? Are they feeling like that time is helping them throughout the, being able to get caught up or whatever the case may be? What has been some of the feedback you've received?
Yes, ma'am. That feedback is really from person to person to person. You get some people that really like the structure the way it is. You get some people that really like the way their building does it. You get some people that have heard the way other buildings are doing it. And so that's kind of what Dr. Paluski has done, is garnered that feedback. And we've put systems in place to make sure that we're being more consistent in regards to what our staff's needs are. We really listened. We gave back time to the staff for their needs, and we still peeled back some of those pieces so we could get some good work done district-wide. And so that's...
And I would say that it just to add to that it really hinges around making sure they have individual planning time, but making sure that they have more collaborative planning time, and then making sure to meet the needs of each campus that principals have designated time for some professional development. Let's not forget we got a new assessment that's coming. There's a lot of changes with the LEARNs Act. There's not a lot of professional development days that are in our calendar, so it does give us that flexibility as well. And we just put that information out in December, and every week it has a designated what the focus is for that day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Sir.
Madam President, our next information item is 1.2. This is school choice options. I welcome my colleague, Mr. Gary Logan, the Executive Director of Student-Centered Services. And you know it's always that time of year when we start talking about school choice. And as we always do, Mr. Logan's going to give a high-level overview, just a reminder as we get into that point in the academic year as we prepare for next year. Mr. Logan, welcome.
Hello, Madam President, members of our board. We'll do our part to be thorough and brief. Just want to go over just a couple of things in regards to school choice. Not a lot of information in regards to, or recommendations in regards to policy changes to talk about, because as you all know, in the last legislative session, school choice is one of the things that was affected, and we were able to have a little conversation with ADE about the changes that are being made, and they're in the process of revising the rules. So as that is rolled out, then it's possible we could come back with some policy changes based on what those rules look like. So this presentation will be like what you've seen probably year in and year out. But we just want to review our enrollment options, because we do reside in a heavily populated area, so we do compete and share for students, share students among surrounding districts. So our enrollment options, the ones that we use the most, are the most common ones. There's some subcategories of school choice that aren't specifically listed here, but we have legal transfers, which you are accustomed to seeing. You see those oftentimes in your regular board meetings, and then school choice or employee choice, school choice, and intra-district transfer, or as I like to call them, waivers. The legal transfer option is an agreement essentially between the board of directors, between us and Little Rock, or us and Little Rock, Pulaski County. We either release, if a student wants to go to a different district, we agree to release them through board action, and then the other board agrees to take them. So that's pretty self-explanatory. I think this year we had about 50 of those this year, but that is ongoing. So we could have one next month. That's just as needed. Employee choice, this is one that we do mainly for our students. So if you're an employee of the North Little Rock School District, you may apply for your students to attend the district with you. This is all in-state law. You can bring your kids with you if you work in the district. So we do have quite a bit of those. We want our people to bring their kids with them. Applications are submitted with a request at school, and then it's all of this is contingent upon seating, and I'm sure we'll have questions about that at the end, but it all hinges on seating. And then there's the school choice option. Parents requesting a school in the North Little Rock School District but live outside the boundary of the boundaries such as Little Rock, Sherwood, Monmouth, Jacksonville. They need to complete a school choice. That window opens January 1st, January 3rd, and it closes May 1st, and then we make those determinations. The main thing to think about when people use school choice is we don't provide transportation, and transportation is not provided with really any of these options that we present to you tonight. Transportation is just, it's not provided. The parent submits that application, they provide proof of residence, and then we evaluate that. All of the things, it's contingent upon cost. There's several factors that go into allowing students into, but provisionally we hope to accept everybody that wants to come to the North Little Rock School District. Once approved, permission is valid until the student graduates. One thing I'd like to emphasize that we've been a little bit of a learning curve is acceptance on school choice. Mainly this affects elementary. It's we accept you to the district. So building assignment is an internal process. The actual school choice is to the district. So you can come to North Little Rock, but that doesn't mean that the school that you say you want to go to at the elementary level is guaranteed. So oftentimes people will apply. They only want one option. If we don't have seats there, we give them another option. Sometimes they choose to go ahead and come, and sometimes they choose not to. The other option that is quite common is the intra-district transfer option, which is I live in the Amboy community, but I want to attend the 7th Street. Those are some of the last ones that we review. Again, transportation is not provided. Our policy actually negates that we try to get these done by February 15th because a lot of planning has to go into reviewing numbers, reviewing the data so that we can determine how many seats we have so that we can make those decisions. Again, you're approved here unless you move outside the district. Your student enrolls somewhere else, decides to go to a charter school, or the parent, you can always choose to go back to your zone school. So if I do an intra-district transfer, but I just say, hey, I want to go back to my zone school, then you can go back to your zone school. And again, we emphasize transportation is not provided with these. This step-by-step assignment process, each year Ms. Hale helps. This will just be my second year, and I was learning last year, and I'm sure I made a few mistakes, and I apologize to anybody that we ruffled in that process. But we review our numbers, and as you know, kindergarten, or may not know, kindergarten we can hold 20 kids per section. First grade is 25, second grade 25, third grade is 25, and then fourth and fifth grade, it's at 28. And most of this is really applicable in our elementary schools where there are options. I would like to say we did a good job of not having to use our waiver for overages. We've learned a lot in that process, but we were able to keep a lot of the feedback that I think you all probably got is, hey, we've got classrooms that in kindergarten or in first grade, they're over by 5 or 6 above standard. We have a waiver that allows us to do that, and we do employ some additional support staff, but this year was one of the first years since I've been here. We didn't use that. We don't currently have any buildings that have overages, which is a good thing because we know one of the greatest impacts on student achievement is class size. You know, if we can have smaller classes, we can get a little more done. So this is where we start. When we start evaluating school choice, interdistrict, all of those options that I presented to you, it all starts on seats available. Sometimes we just have to say we don't have room, but if we look at a neighborhood school and we see, if we were talking about a school that had 80 seats available but they had 95 neighborhood kids, then obviously we would entertain adding a section to that particular school. We would reserve that for those kids in that zone, and if there was some room left at the end, then we would consider the options in the order that I presented them to you. And then this is kind of an overview of what I've just talked through. Obviously, we reserve seats first. So in May, everybody in the district is accustomed to getting a assignment letter. So in May, we'll run these reports based off of your address, geocaching, as Kathy has informed me, and we will send you a letter saying based off of the address that we have on file, this is your school for next year. Now what happens, one thing that I didn't talk about is what happens sometimes is we have to do what we call a forced transfer. So sometimes we have just a few kids over, maybe one kid. We had 80 seats at this school, but there were 1 or 2 kids over. We tell them, hey, we don't have seats at your home school, so for this year we're going to send you to this school. Well, those kids in May, they will get rolled back to their home school, and then parents can apply if they want to stay. They can do that, but that's a part of that process. So zone school first. And then that gives us a projected number of available seats. And this projection includes save seats for families. So we do, and it's actually in our policy, we try to reserve 15% of our seats for people who could possibly move into the zone. So that what we don't want to have is we don't want to feel max out of school by making all of these assignments, and then we have people move into the community and not be able to have a seat at their zone school. So we try to leave some space for kids who may move into the district. The next thing is we look at school choice and legal transfers, which obviously, like I told you, legal transfers, those are ongoing. And then we look at teacher's choice, our people. And finally, we look at those interdistrict, or as you will hear people call it, special permissions. Those are considered for placement. And then that assignment letter is mailed out by May 15th, the middle of May, just to get everybody talking about enrollment or registration, get everybody pre-register, and then we start to work that process. One thing that I did learn in this process is we do consider siblings. So if you are here on a school choice or any of those other particular waivers, if you are a sibling group, we do try to keep families together. However, sometimes it just doesn't, one of the most common threads is we will have space at this campus in one grade, you have a kindergartner, but not space at that campus for your fourth grader. So then a decision has to be made on, again, where we have seats available. So it's a balancing act, but I felt like we did a pretty good job this year in being able to make some decisions and try to move some things a little earlier than what we have in the past. So I just want to say there are several application processes that take place when students are enrolling in the North Little Rock School District. It's our goal to make every effort to ensure a successful enrollment process for all. We just encourage and want to put out there to everybody that they know that the school choice window is January 2nd through May 1st. We want to put that out there because we want everybody to choose North Little Rock. So that's really my presentation.
Well, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions. I'll start with Rochelle.
The school choice, are all the districts on the same time frame window?
Yes, so that's in law.
Okay, so everybody's on this. Just for clarity of how it works, if I want to do school choice, does that mean that I can literally transfer now?
So
Or do I
choice is
wait?
through a window. School choice is through a window, and that window opens. So application, you start applying in January. We make those decisions and determinations once that window closes. We notify the resident district, and we notify you if we're going to approve that, and then you're good forever until you meet the highest grade. Legal transfer would be what was now, which is, that's just the board agrees. There's an agreement between the board. So it's just a different process, but they accomplish the same thing.
I was asking just scenario because we have some students that have made it known publicly that they are leaving North Little Rock to go to a Little Rock school through school choice.
So right now you can't, there's no, the school choice
closed.
window, it's not through school choice. It would have to be, the only option to move a student now would be through a legal transfer, a board to board. That's the common language, is a board to board transfer, and that means the
Right,
two
so if you were
boards.
moving, Mr. Logan,
Right.
from here to another, we're correct? That would be one example.
Yeah, or if you move. Now, one thing that, just a little bit of information that we did get from the state about just probably the most known thing that happened with school choice or with transfers was, as of now, in the past, if I moved, say I lived in North Little Rock and I moved to Little Rock, I had to go to Little Rock or come before the board and do a board-to-board transfer. With the last legislative session, a part of LEARNS is, as long as I never unenroll, I could stay in North Little Rock. So whereas before they would have had to come before you to say how I want to stay, even though we live in Little Rock. As long as we never unenroll, then you get to stay in North Little Rock.
I love that our staff can bring their babies with them. I did not realize that the employee choice option was an option. How about that? So I like that. But with that caveat, what happens if I'm an employee and I leave? Do I still have that option, or do I go back to like
Right.
general population
So,
wanting what I want?
As it's written, employee choice is as long as you are an employee.
Correct.
And we've had some conversation about that, and that's something Mrs. Hale and I are working with our registrars on, ensuring that we clean up, because when you get kids and they just roll over, but yeah, that's employee choice is contingent. That act is specifically directed at people who work for the district.
Currently employed.
Currently employed.
When you were talking about moving some of the students, like if they were like maybe one over in a particular school and they had to go to like a neighboring school, even if it's for a temporary period. I know you were saying how transportation in certain situations was not provided, but if it's a situation where
Right.
you are asking I'm saying you like the district is saying we're going to have to
Then
move
we
you
do.
for this particular year, is transportation provided then?
Yes. So when
Okay.
we do what we call a forced transfer, we
Forced
provide
transfer.
that transportation. And the unique thing, what I like, that was already in place before I got here, is that's curb to curb. So that means we pick you up at your house and we take you directly to your school. And a lot of places, you ride the bus to your zone school and then you're transferred by bus, it's a cheaper option, but it helps us keep up, because this is at elementary and we don't want to lose any kids. So I think the reason that measure was put in place is to make sure that those kids that were being forced transferred were getting exactly where they needed to be. So yeah, we provide that transportation.
It wasn't too much of a large amount of kids that had to participate in forced transfer?
Forced
this year?
transfer, it's fluid. It ebbs and flows. I think there were 37 at last I
Okay.
checked, but I mean, you did never know. I mean, and I worked in a larger district before, and it's the same conversation that those executive directors have about how that process works. It just changes every year.
So, and as far as like applications, as far as whichever one that they're needing at that particular time, is this strictly online, or is it a go online, fill it out, and then submit it online, or do they need to print it out?
So
Can they
all
come
of
by
those
and
are
pick up application?
online.
Okay.
Everything that we have currently is online. You can do
Okay.
it all online.
And then we'll have that posted on our website as far as, this particular period is open now. You can apply for school choice or,
Yeah,
All
we're
that kind of stuff.
advertising it now.
okay. Are we doing anything else as far as advertising it, as far as pushing our district
We
out
are.
there?
We are. And
Okay.
I do, to your other point, if you go to log on to our website, you'll see a blue box that pops up.
Okay.
And that you can't get into our website without reading that first, and it's
Okay.
about school choice.
Okay, good.
Did the LEARNS Act affect any of this as far as policy is concerned?
Yeah, that's what I talked to the state about. Is there are some changes that are being rolled out, but they're waiting to get the rules together before they give them to us. So the advice we were given was to carry with our normal process, and they would share those rules. Once those rules came out, they would make the districts aware.
So we have to wait
Yes, ma'am.
until we get a, okay, thank you.
I know that it's difficult at the beginning of a year, and you have that balance act. I can just visualize you as a ballerina as you go around trying to make it work at every school. And I hope parents understand that sometimes it takes a while to settle those things because people move in, numbers change, but there's no doubt there's a good policy here that you follow step by step. This is this situation, and we do this for that situation. So that is good. And I thought you wrapped it up with a little bow on it there, telling about it too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one question, Madam President. Mr. Logan, you know, several years ago, we had a problem with an athlete because they changed and said they didn't live here and all of that. We haven't had that. I know two of our athletes have left our district to go to other places in which that's their choice. But but by any chance, are we keeping ourselves grounded as far as following rules and regs of what you're presenting to us?
Yes, ma'am. There's not any issues coming through that I'm aware of that would cause us any grief.
Okay, those are things that our illustrious superintendent had to solve. So that's what I was asking you, because we would like to stay in tune with the LEARNS Act and do the right things for our district. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all.
Okay. My question's more, I know we get a lot of requests for Crestwood,
Yes, ma'am.
and we probably could build a much bigger school there, I guess. I don't know. But it seems like every year we're overflowing there.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's questions about building rooms, and so can you be a little more specific about what's actually happening in Crestwood? I
Right.
know we got open space in Lakewood, and I mean, if someone's in Crestwood now by school choice and we have space in Lakewood, is that a forced transfer then because they started at Crestwood? How is that?
Right. So typically, once we make a building assignment, we leave the children there. And the unique thing about what has transpired at Crestwood, particularly in our it's KN1 or the grades right now, was we had an influx of. My assumption is there's an influx of neighborhood kids and school choice kids. So what happened is your numbers get larger, or they change. So you think kindergarten 20, so you have you may have 5 sections of kindergarten. That's 100 kids. But if you were your first grade only had 3 sections, then that doesn't fit. So that's where we got into having to add classrooms. So typically we try to leave kids. If you get in on school choice and we approve you at Crestwood, then you stay there. The situation we were faced with this year was we were over because of the dynamics of the ratios. So we would have been forced transferring kids that were at Crestwood all last year to a different campus when they were Crestwood kids.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. You're saying we got 4 classrooms of kindergartners,
Mm-hmm.
but we only have room to move them to 3 classrooms of first
Right.
grade.
It was the sections, because when you look at, the 20, what we could hold as kindergartners, so you think 4 sections of kindergarten is 80 kids, but 3 sections of first grade is 75 kids. So that discrepancy in numbers, whenever you only have, it depends on the amount of sections that you have when you start moving kids between kindergarten and first. And then then it happens again, which is where it hit us again, is when you go from second grade at 25 to 4th grade at 28.
Okay, all right, well, that makes more sense. That makes more sense.
So we had a large group of, and that's what it was this year, was a large group of kids. But the question, or what we had to deal with was do we move 15 kids who were here all last year, or even those 3rd graders? Do you move? It was a good chunk of 3rd graders. Do you move those kids who have all been there since? And then how do you decide who to move?
Right.
So the answer for us, because again, we look at it, we looked at Crestwood, but we also looked at our other campuses. And when I look at Crestwood, and we have 4 sections of kindergarten that can hold 80 kids, but I got 100 kids registered. And then I looked at another campus, they had 3 sections of kindergarten that could have held 60 kids, but they only had 42 enrolled. Then in that case, we're trying to be cost effective. We can harvest a teacher. That's maybe not the best word, but we can move a teacher so that these kids don't move. And we tried to make that determination much earlier than, from my understanding, than what we have in the past, because our goal is to make those decisions within 10 days, the first 10 days of school.
Correct.
Or beforehand, and that's where we were
Correct.
this year. Is we made those decisions. It was emotions were running high, but we had to make those decisions early on. Because it was inevitable. We knew what we did was had our registrars. We told everybody, hey, you have to call all 80 of these kids. Like you, your counselor, principal, everybody needs to be calling. And that's the best way to get that data. But until we have bodies and seats, it's hard to make those determinations, or until we make those phone calls. But that's how we ended up in that situation at Crestwood this year.
And I think the other thing, Ms. Temple, that we try to take into consideration is the continuity of instruction of a child, not to disrupt. That's what Mr. Logan's talking about, is not disrupt them. They've been in that school. I think when I first got here, there was decisions made of moving teachers and students all the way in October. You never want to do that, because they've already established routines, and we try to stick to that. If we do have to move, we're going to do it in the first 10 days. I will add that this year, and I just listened to this, I think it would be a good idea that when we do our back-to-school report, Mr. Logan could provide us with a current update of enrollment and looking at where that is across the district as we're getting ready to open school would probably be helpful.
Yes.
All right, so since we've taken these students in, are we going to have to do some reconfiguration there? I know they lost their STEM lab and.
Right. So that is it 3rd grade that's in the STEM lab? Who's in the STEM lab? Is it? Is it? Yeah. So what will happen now? We're not making any structural changes at Crestwood, and because again, when we go back to sections, because it's 3rd graders that are in the STEAM lab. When we go back to sections, with the way things stand, is we're going to gain essentially enough seats by going from 25 to 28 to be able to absorb that without, and hopefully things can go back to normal. The STEAM lab can have its space back.
Okay, all right. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job, Mr.
Right.
Logan.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a great team player.
Let's see. The last one is, I'll try to pull up my computer here.
No, I just said 10 pages.
The last item that we have is 1.3, and this is a 2024 North Little Rock School District Master Facility Plan document. This is a large document, but this is our complete facilities plan. We do this every year. I welcome Mr. Testman from Arch Ford, who's our facilities manager, if you will, and Mr. Brown. But we do this annually. This is kind of to reset the deck as we kind of go forward. So I'll allow these gentlemen to give a very high-level overview. This is just information tonight. We'll come back. By law, the board has to adopt this, so we'll bring it back at the next board meeting. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, Ms. Williams. I heard you. What we have here is a 6-year master plan. This is the full master plan consisting of 15 tabs. Some of these tabs are just for informational purposes. They're really a report. I'm going to go in depth on the ones that are really the heart and soul of your master plan. But I'll briefly describe the other tabs and what their use is for. And if you have any questions about it, at the top of the page, I put the master plan rule and also why we performed these tabs and what the facilities division is wanting to know. So what we'll look at first is tab 1. This is district information. You scroll through there, it's just a list of all your campuses and all your buildings, the ages, the square footages, and each year we'll update this. Let's say you have a demolition at a campus, or if you do an addition, we'll update that. And that's basically what tab 1 is. Tab 2 will be your board resolution. That'll be the resolution that shows that the board approves the master plan that I guess you'll sign at the next session. Tab 3 is public comment and public sign-in sheet. The division wants the opportunity of the public to have any input into or ask any questions about your facilities master plan. So after I'm done, I guess you can ask the public if they have any questions.
And that's the sign-in sheet that we've collected from those in the audience and from the board members as well. We're passing that around. This will get input into our planning document when it's submitted to ADE.
Okay.
Tab 4 is enrollment projections. These projections are only relevant to the facilities division. These are projections that the state hires out to be determined what they are. And the only place that these projections really matter is just with the facilities division, no other ADE entity. And if you see something that you have a question about going through here, let me know.
I know, I was gonna say something, but I'm trying to word it correctly. So basically, coming back to that enrollment, our enrollment form there, that's what the state is willing to give us money for based on this enrollment, correct?
Yes, projections.
Okay, so whether we blow that out of the park or not, and we're triple those numbers, doesn't matter. State's only gonna give us this projected amount of numbers per money.
Yes, we've already signed the contract, the project agreement, and everything is set from that point on.
Okay, I just wanted clarification on that. Thank
Yes.
you.
Well, can we
Sorry.
repeat that again? Like, these numbers are set for 10 years?
No. Every year, the projections are recalculated. And the reason why is because there's something live county birth rates. So that's a factor of the enrollment. So that has a trickle-down effect from the year 1 to year 10. And, of course, I guess an attrition calculation of students in the district that they also calculate. But
Well,
it gets calculated every year, redone.
Well, I notice there's a district note on this. The
Oh, yes.
district doesn't agree.
In preparing this, I give the opportunity for the district, if they disagree with this enrollment, just for the reason why you just said that, we cannot supply. You used to be able to supply your own project or your own enrollment projections, but within the last 2 years, the facilities division said that they no longer accept district self-projected enrollments. So I thought that it would be good for the district to be able to say, we don't agree. We know you're not going to accept it, but we don't agree because of these reasons.
which is why we put the middle school and the reconstruction, and that, you know, if we had a new middle school, highly likely that we would be growing enrollment, and so that would throw these numbers off. So that's why when we talked to present this to you, why we just wanted to go on the record that based upon this is why we added those comments.
Kind of gives the division a heads up that something will happen in the district that cause increase enrollment.
But this number that's on here is not the number that's multiplied times whatever that per student is.
Yes. So
Or it
because
is.
the construction cost, hang on, make sure I'm correct. The construction cost per student is based on this projection, correct?
The construction cost is not based on students, it's based on square footage. Now, what they take your enrollment to calculate the
Square
amount of
footage.
square
Okay,
footage
that's where I'm
you
coming
would
from,
need.
yes.
But the funding is based off square footage.
Yes.
I knew there was a student and a square
There is.
money somewhere,
There
yes.
is.
It,
Yes.
it's
So
tied
they
together.
take-
It's
They
tied.
You in the
utilize your
ballpark.
student enrollment to determine the
You were in there.
space you need to educate that many students. But then when they come back, they use the space times a square footage amount to determine your,
But are they using this number for that? Or are they using an actual number?
They use a projection because the state does not want to provide a school, let's say 6 years down the road, you have an increase of 300 students from what it is today. So that's why you have the projections. That's as in your middle school, we use the highest number of enrollment for a certain number of years because the state doesn't want to provide a building that you're going to outgrow in a year. They want it to last a while.
Okay,
Does that make sense, Valerie?
we'll keep going.
Okay. I wasn't trying to confuse you, I'm sorry. But I knew there was a calculation in there, and I knew
Right.
that we were getting shortchanged. No matter what, we're getting
Right,
shortchanged.
right.
All right, tab 5 is the community district profile. This tab does not have to be submitted anymore because it was integrated into tab 6, our next one, which is the narrative. And I'll go a little bit more in depth into the narrative because I consider this the most important part of the whole master plan. The first section you see here on page 1 of 5 is the superintendent's district summary. This is his essay that tells the direction of the district within the next 6 years and any planned projects you may have. Page 2 of 5, you find building fund balance designation. Legislators want to know what the building balance is for school districts at the end of their fiscal year. And it looks like you had 40 million plus. Page 3 of 5.
Oh, wait, what, just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
It says Master Plan Rule 5222.
Yes.
And then it gives this rule.
Yes.
So was that rule enacted at 5222? Because down here for the ending fund balance, it says 2023.
So that would be the year 22 to 23, the school year 22-23. And I believe these rules get updated every so often, so I put master plan rule, the latest revision of the rule
Okay.
for that.
Okay, thanks.
Page 3 of 5. This is, according to the division, every project they have on record for the North Little Rock School District from, I think it was about 06, 07, or 05 up until today, in case you want to find out what, or if you want to see what the district's done in the past, any kind of record they have for any construction of your district.
The ADA chairlift, would that be the, oh my gosh, what is the thing that we get in, elevator, or is that something separate?
ADA chair, that's on the high school? Does that say high school?
It says ADA chairlift at the high school, yes, sir. And it says complete and it's local. I was just curious.
I believe that's right below the old main. It's outside, I believe. It gets from one level to the other, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've
Yeah, that's fine.
toured.
Why don't those have any dates on them?
Mm-mm.
Any
It
dates?
has a project number. I'm assuming if I went and looked up that project number, I could find a date.
And it says, and I tried to, like, look at the top of the page. Project number, the first 4 digits reflect the project year.
Ah,
Oh,
very good.
okay.
So that's what the web tool that the division has doesn't have the ability to create reports in a very user-friendly, intuitive way. So I came up with this pattern myself, and I oversee 26 school districts, so there's continuity in between all of them. Because I can't be at every school board meeting to present the master plan. So I go, oh, I better put something in here so they can kind of find out what it
Makes
is all
sense.
about.
Thank you. Good job.
So anytime you have a question, just look at the top. I'll have tips, hints, and tricks. Next one is page 4 or 5. Building value calculations. Now, across your district, well, the division says, well, not the division, I guess, nationwide. A building has a life of about 50 years
Okay.
of usefulness. So they say every year the building depreciates at 2%. So at 50 years, it's at 0. And after 0, it goes to negative numbers. Well, the division says they want to know and have the district recognize that they have a building that's 50 years old. They don't say you have to do anything with that building. They just want you to recognize and declare that you know you have a building that's 50 years old. So there is a list of your buildings that are 50 years or older and what the planned use is.
So 4 from the middle school, which is what we're hoping to rebuild. Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Yep, I see that.
And let's say some of your older buildings or older campuses that you've had have been renovated completely. Unless you tear it down to the slab and build it up again, the division does not reset that number. It just keeps on going down. So that's why on your Ridge Road, your main original, I put has been renovated.
Right. Yep, got it.
But it carries a negative 30%.
Yes.
Because that
Okay.
was the original building from 1959.
59, Lord have
Yep.
mercy.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Hey, Old Main was 1929, just for the public to know.
Tab 5 of 5, any unused, underutilized facilities and real property. This tab was created through the legislatures due to charter schools wanting the first opportunity to take any abandoned property by public school districts. And I guess this occurred probably about 7, 8 years ago that this law was instituted. So if you want to get rid of a building, you have to notify the division first, say we want to get rid of this building. They put it on their website. Charter schools across the state look at it, local charter schools, and they get right of first refusal. And we had only one, the high school, Poplar Street. And that is the only one we have, and I don't think anybody wants that one.
Well, that was
do
going to
they?
be my follow-up question. Okay. I mean, I'm fine with that, but I'm like,
I do not
talking about
believe,
being in our back door.
I'm not aware of any campus or building that has been acquired by a charter school through this law
Okay. It's comforting.
pre-learns.
It's fair. It's fair.
All right? Anybody have any questions about tab 6?
Yeah, real quick.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
with this being an unused building and nobody wants it, that means it's still ours. We're free to do what we want with it. Like if we want to just tear it all down and, I don't know, build something else there.
I
Like a baseball stadium.
believe I worked with
Or
Mr.
aquatic stadium.
Kelly
Field.
Rogers on this one. What he said in the past was at that time we submitted that we wanted to relinquish that property or use it for something else. I think it was football or, no, softball or soccer
Softball.
areas. So we had, it was some kind of physical activity. But
So does that lock us in? Okay.
Okay.
I don't know,
We've
but
got a few superintendents
it's
after that.
it's been 8 years maybe, I think.
Okay, I'm confused because I thought it's still our determination to let it go, correct? Or you're saying because it's on here,
Yes.
they can come tell us they're taking it?
If you have a building that is unused, underutilized, or, well, that's basically it. If you don't have kids in there and you're not using it, you have to declare it on this page.
Which we did, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we did what we were supposed to do,
Yes.
so we're good. But moving forward, because of the former superintendent declared in the master plan during 2012's major reconstruction of all of the schools within the school district, are we bound by that?
You can, I think there's, after 2 years, you can do with it whatever you want. But
Okay.
let's say you had a building today
Uh-huh.
that it was unused, underutilized, and you put it on this list. It would go up to there's two paths. One of them, you can say, we want an immediate waiver.
Okay.
30 days, we're going to sell this building because the city wants it. We want to sell it to them. That'll go out immediately, and after 30 days, if nobody says anything, then you can sell it. But otherwise, if you just say, we have this building, we're just going to let it sit there, then I believe it sits on the list for 2 years. Now, I'm not sure if there's a statute of limitations for that after that 2 years, but you already have a plan for it, a soccer field. You can change that however you want. It's
Sure,
been
sure.
longer than 2 years.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But basically, it's what's on the books is we have a plan for this property.
Right.
Correct.
Which we still do.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. I'm just making
Yes.
sure we're not.
Yep.
We're
Yes,
good. You panicked me semi there. I'm like, wait a minute. Halt.
Okay.
All right. Tab 7. This is the first page is just showing you requirements by the state that you have to have for your insurance for your structures. And that's what the requirements and what you actually have through your insurance agent. And then the other half of this is just a copy of your statement of values of your insurance.
Get all insurance.
Tab 8, identification of access issues. The only ones that the district is aware of, the ones that were discovered by the engineers on the middle school campus during their, whenever they,
Their audit.
the fall, whenever we were providing information to the state. And those will be solved through a new building.
We are all hoping, and I'm praying for.
Tab 9 is the custodial schedule and full-time equivalent custodial maintenance staff. The division wants to know the equivalent of people that would consist of a 40-hour work week. So you'd have 68 for custodial. You would have 19 for your maintenance. And they just want to make sure that you're taking care of your buildings, or you have the personnel to take care of your buildings. And then the rest of this are the job descriptions and duties of your custodial crew, and that's what they want.
So they're saying
So-
that we need 68?
No, that's what you have.
That's what we put in there,
That's what you
right?
actually have.
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
So, make me understand again, how do we determine how many custodians we need?
There is a suggested value. I believe it's one per every, there's one per every so many square feet of building. For each of those instances. And it also, I guess, depends on what type of building also, because it might be a little bit easier or harder for a gymnasium to be cleaned in comparison to a same size in a classroom or a All right, statement of assurance, corrective and preventive documentation. These are two statement assurances that Dr. P had to sign. First one just says that you're using your Operations Hero, which is your maintenance program that keeps track of all the maintenance that you do It's a record that the state looks at and checks on. The second one is just saying that in the event, well, it says you need your buildings inspected by a professional for safety reasons, and I believe this came about, this last year, in case of, the active shooters and stuff like that, just basic safety needs.
Which we have covered.
Yes. Tab 12, projected replacement schedule, cites the major components of your buildings in 5-year increments and the estimated costs that would be incurred. Those are estimated, those are values determined by the division or forecast by the division. Next one is the committed projects, tab 13. Right now, the only committed project you have that the state has record of is the high school gymnasium HVAC project. And that is still ongoing. Tab 14, your planned projects. This is probably the one that you're most interested in. You have middle school demo and addition. That is not committed, that's planned still because we haven't got a contract, so it's still considered planned. Contract through contractor and architect, that is. Next project is renovation, Old Main High School. You see it's a partnership project, and we're going to apply for that one. And the last project is North Little Rock Academy, the roof, HVAC, and some structural. I believe it's some brickwork on the parapet wall, maybe. Any questions on that? No? Tab 15 is just a report. The state wants to know, legislators wanted to know, how much money were school districts spending on academic facilities in comparison to non-academic facilities? Basically, it boils down to what percentage of your campuses are academic, what percentage of your campuses are non-academic, and then how much did you spend on those that past year? And it ratios out equally. And I explained the methodology behind it on the exact page. That's all I have.
That's all.
Mr. Tessman.
It's enthralling, is it not?
A lot of info, and it was really good. It's nice to be reminded of what we actually have versus what the state claims and states and says, and they don't always align, so it's always nice to cross-compare.
So tonight was our information public meeting where we discussed the facility plan, and we have the sign-in sheet. That'll be a part of the application submission that we do. We'll come back to you at your regular meeting, ask for approval of the master plan, and we'll fill out the resolution, the board resolution after the vote, and that'll be submitted to the division as well. So this is a two-step process. Tonight was to give the plan overview and record that we had a public meeting on that. And the next step will be approval at your next meeting, and then we'll get this information together. Mr. Tessman will submit that for us. So.
And the deadline for date for this is February 1st, so hopefully it doesn't ice and snow and.
Very good.
Yay.
report.
Guess we'll be doing a virtual meeting.
I'd like a hard copy.
Hard
You want this one?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, let's do questions. And questions for Cheryl? Natalie?
Thank you.
No, I'm all set. I asked as we went.
Angela?
I don't have any questions.
Doc? Valerie? Okay, we're all good. I don't
Thank you,
have any
Mr.
questions
Tessman.
either.
Thank
Yes.
you,
Very thorough.
Mr.
Thank
Brown.
you.
Thanks.
Mr. Tessman, you always bring us such knowledge. Thank you.
The only thing I know in life. So.
Ms. Temple, if I may, before we conclude, I would like to publicly recognize Mr. Stan Wisnat, who we recently lost, who was a dedicated servant to the North Little Rock School District that served his outstanding tenured career. We just all attended his memorial. Publicly want to recognize and keep their Ms. Wisnat, who's one of our principals, their thoughts and prayers. I know there's a service today. There's a service, the viewing tomorrow, as well as the gravesite on Saturday. And I was just wondering, Madam President, members of the board, if we could just take a moment of silence to just think about Mr. Wisnat and the Wisnat family. Thank you, Madam President, members of our board.